All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, fellow Pandemonium travelers, this is Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown Day 186. And, oh boy, are we into it, kids. It's like half the country is on fire from wildfires, and then the other half is on fire from rioters and looters. Yeah, orange skies over, well, most of the West Coast, really. Seattle's a little pinkish. It's a little smoky, but even down in Oregon, there's some nightmarish photos coming out and videos coming out of just unbelievable, like, just orange and reds. The entire sky, everything's just coated in red. Wildfires. And then, of course, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be like, climate change. See, you had 120 something degree temperatures down in California, so therefore climate change, therefore let's argue for more, I don't know, Green New Deal stuff, whatever that is, whatever that might mean. What else is going down? I have some personal issues, but that's a separate thing. I'm not going to tell you about that. What's going on? Some Proud Boys got in a fight. I think it was down in Portland, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. Who can keep up? But they fell for it, and I remember Tim Cass talking about this. If you're gonna be on the right, quote unquote, whatever that means, you're a Proud Boy or whatever it is, and you're gonna go out and confront these like Antifa guys, what's gonna happen is no matter what, they're gonna agitate, right? And then they're gonna attack you, and then when you attack back, they're gonna take video, cut out the beginning, and then post a video and say, we were attacked by these violent right-wing extremist Proud Boy types. Now, are the Proud Boys violent right-wing extremist types? I don't know. They say they don't start fights, they just finish them. And I've seen video proof of this. They don't do anything, and they get attacked, and then they kind of kick the shit out of the people who attacked them. It is... I don't know, it is what it is. They are what they are. You either hate them, you love them, or you're kind of indifferent. I'm relatively indifferent. I think it's mostly innocuous. It's just the only reason that we've all heard about them is because they've come out and faced down these angry, like, you know, leftist mobs. I mean, that is why we all have heard about them. So that's something to think about anyway. But the optics are what they are, and it's predictable. So if you go out there and you fight with these people, you're gonna get you're gonna get edited out of context. And there's a video going around where you're like, I find that this is indefensible. They're like chasing down this little, I called him a twink. That's kind of mean. He's a very skinny young man, clearly not very old. Like, looked like dyed blonde hair, and they're chasing him down, these like sort of big guys. And they knock him to the ground, and he's like screeching. Now, he might have tried to stab someone before this happened, but we don't see that, right? We don't see that happen. What we see are these big guys chasing this little, now effeminate guy down and attacking him and knocking him on the ground, and he's like screeching and everything. And it's like, how do you think that looks, guys? Right? I understand. Maybe he just pulled a gun out on somebody. I don't know. We didn't see that part, but we don't need to see that part to make you guys look bad. So, because this is actually the deeper lesson here, and this applies to the right and the left. You will be taken out of context. I will be edited out and taken out of context if someone cared enough to. I've said enough wacky shit on this, into this camera to warrant that. Because I sometimes say things intentionally inflammatory to like make people mad. It's like part of, God, this U-turn at this light. I swear to God, you guys. But you will be taken out of context for political purposes. Like, for purposes of reinforcing their various narratives. And, again, I don't know really what to do about that. Because, again, for the millionth time, what we're talking about is social, cultural, economic, and political control over large enough voting demographics to ensure various candidates achieve various positions of power within a government that controls the largest socio-cultural, economic, military, and nuclear apparatus in the history of the world. So what isn't on the table? If you want to fearmonger to people, that's motivating. You want to inspire people. MAGA, we're going to make America great again. You want to try to inspire people to motivate them. Well, that too. That's motivating as well. To get people to be interested and feel like their self-interest is involved, and to get them to go to the polls and pull the lever for your guy or gal. What isn't on the table if that's your objective? If your objective is to take control of this giant thing that is, you know, we're a permanent member of the UN Security Council, right? It pays to keep that in mind. Like, we are commanded by the world community to throw our weight around. At least that's what the mandate from the UN is supposedly supposed to mean. And then we go rampaging around the world, destroying countries, and then people act surprised. They have the audacity to act surprised when the thing set up to basically do exactly this does exactly that. And I use that kind of phraseology a lot, like, the thing that was going to happen happened and everyone acts surprised. Because every incentive in the world is already set up to have all of these things happen. The financial incentives are there. Oh, God, guys. Do you not know how to make a turn? See, this is why people just run red lights. Every incentive in the world is there to have our government give giant subsidies to military production, you know, the military industrial complex, for lack of, to reduce it down a little bit, military contractors, to get them to build weapons for specifically us, because we don't want other countries to have our military tech, because it's a matter of national security that we keep all our stuff secret, right? You then get Area 51 and all this other, and this giant intelligence apparatus that keeps secrets from us. And I can actually understand why they're keeping secrets from us, because all of us aren't on the same, we're not all running the same program. So if you as a US citizen were privy to quote-unquote top secret information, it would just go out all over the world and it would compromise our military. You see, once you start down the path, you start the ball rolling, this is what happens. You get all of these externalities because you've established this sort of giant warfare state. And it, again, it's like we've been doing this now for at least like 60 years, at least since like, what were they? National Intelligence Service, was the NIS during World War II? Like MI5 stuff. Like, ever since then, we've just developed our own KGB, and they have an inside track on what foreign governments are doing, what our military is doing, what our government is doing. And in the case of, and let me talk about Trump for a minute with the Spygate or whatever. The intelligence agencies basically granted themselves permission to investigate a political candidate, a candidate for political office. Now, you can argue that it was justified, you can argue that it was necessary, but they like forged documents and stuff, is my understanding, in order to get their way, in order to make this thing move forward. So there's that. Like, regardless of whether or not Trump is working with Russia or not, we should think about this. We have an intelligence apparatus that spies on itself, spies on political candidates, and it's leveraged for political purposes, right? Like, all of this scandal was just meant to sandbag the Trump administration. Now, if you don't like Trump, then you think that's fine. But you should consider what the bargain is that you're asking for. If that's fine, then it's going to be fine if someone else is in control of this mechanism, and you're going to be mad then. You're going to be mad in the future when it does something you don't want. And when this warfare state goes to war with a country you don't want it to go to war to, you'll become anti-war, right? We constructed this thing, and it took decades. It did take decades, and I think it was, my understanding is, there were people like William F. Buckley and others who justified the construction of this giant warfare intelligence state because it was necessary to defeat the communists during the Cold War. To defeat the Soviets, we need to make a pseudo-Soviet state, which is basically the argument. Well, we got it. It took a while. We normalized procedures to sort of fight various wars all over the world, to intervene wherever we wanted for ideological reasons. Oh, we're going to go liberate the Iraqis. The Iraqis need liberating. And we're going to go and topple their government, and then they'll just institute a Jeffersonian constitution and have free markets, and everything will be fine. And it didn't work out like that. That's not what happened. And yet the warfare state rolls on. And seemingly, there's nothing we can do about it. Now, if true, there was an announcement that Trump was going to bring back thousands of troops from Afghanistan. Well, let's see. How many is thousands? 1,001 or like 10,000? How many guys do we still have in Afghanistan? I don't even know that number, because I don't necessarily actually know what I'm talking about. You should probably know that number. Hey, we still have 50,000, or we have 1,000. Like, these numbers do matter when we're talking about occupying places all around the world. But you understand, we still, like, occupy Germany. We have military bases in Germany. You could justify it during the Cold War because it was to defend Western Europe from Eastern Europe and the Iron Curtain and the Soviets, right? But that is now over, unless, of course, you think Russia is a major threat to global stability. What are you doing? And, you know, and America's national security, right? If you think they are, then you can justify it. But we still have military bases in, like, Okinawa. Do we have any on Japan proper, like the home island? We've got military bases all over the world, and people call us a global empire, and it certainly looks like one. I mean, there's not being an empire, and then there's being an empire. like we have a lot of the features of a global empire and a global military, like, I don't want to say a police state, but we gave ourselves a mandate, especially after 9/11, to basically surveil the whole world and then attack the whole world when we felt justified. So I don't know. It's like we should have a think about that. And that continued under both Republican and Democrat presidential administrations. It proceeded under our first black president, so-called liberal, so-called progressive. Joe Biden was the vice president at the time, if you do recall, and he's now running for president. So this is one of these things. Trump ran on ending wars. Biden voted for the Iraq War. You got to remember these things and keep things in context when they're whispering sweet progressive nothings into your ear about taking dangerous military-grade weapons off the street and offering free health care and student loan forgiveness and all these other things. They still, people like Biden, backed war. Backed bombing brown people on the other side of the planet. Okay? That's what happened. That's what we did. You can justify it all you want. That's what happened. So if you're a progressive, keep that in mind. And I understand a lot of progressives are already hip to all this stuff and they don't like Joe Biden. But if you're a sort of default Dem or somewhat liberal but not necessarily progressive, keep this stuff in mind. You're being had. You're being lied to. All right. That was a weird rant. That's enough from me for one day. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.